Hey everybody, this is Jason out at camp here in Colorado. Today I'm going to show you how to make some char cloth. First thing you need for making char cloth is some cotton. This is some already charred cotton that I've made. What you need to do is go get you some nice new cotton. New meaning an old t-shirt, your wife's favorite dress. Just kidding, don't do that, it'll get you in a huge amount of trouble. But 100% cotton, old cotton t-shirt. You can use denim jeans, that works just fine. You can use old cotton rags, anything with cotton in it, 100%. You typically want to stay away from stuff that's got like stickers, iron-ons on it. You don't want to use that. That'll ruin it. It might catch on fire when you're making it. It just won't work. Typically you're going to use white cotton, but you can use a dyed cotton. It doesn't really matter as long as it doesn't have like those iron-on prints on them. But this is an old t-shirt that I cut up. I cut it into squares the size I want. These squares fit pretty well into my tin, so I just got a handful of these. You can see the stack is about that thick. You just want enough to fit in your tin, so they don't curl up on the edges. They're just going to lay in there kind of nicely. So you need your cotton. Next thing you're going to need, obviously, is the tin. I just got an old aluminum tin can. I forget where I got it from. It doesn't really matter. But it's got a lid on it that fits on there nice and secure. You can use something like this. You can use those Altoid tins. A lot of people use Altoid tins. You can use a bigger cookie tin, whatever. It's just got to be able to go into the fire and be fairly airtight, I suppose, so the flames can't get into it. But you do have to poke a little hole in it. You see I have a little hole right there. You poke that hole in it so that when you're cooking this cotton, the gases will escape. And then you need a flame. You can do this in your backyard, on your grill, on a little Coleman stove. I'm going to do mine over a campfire, whatever it is. You just need a hot flame or hot coals. You don't want to do this inside your house because those gases do escape and you're going to stink up your house. I've done it in a big flame, with big fire lapping up over the top of this, and I've done it on just coals. So if you're using a big flame, just be careful. It's going to be harder to get the tin in and out, and there is a possibility that it's going to be too much heat and it's going to burst this inside and on fire, and then it's going to ruin your char cloth. But I'm going to take this tin. It's empty. There's just some residue from cooking these last ones, and I'm going to place this cotton inside, and I try to get it so they fit in there, so they're not all balled up. They're laid flat, and that'll just help these burn better. And what's going to happen is it's going to get hot inside. I'm going to put the lid on it. It's going to get hot inside, but there's not enough oxygen in this can for it to actually burst into flames. So it's just going to smolder and slowly cook this cloth. And when it's done, it's going to look like this. So put this over your fire, your flame, your coals, whatever you're going to use, and smoke is going to start pouring out of this hole. When that smoke stops, you need to take this tin off that fire and then put something over or in that hole to kind of snuff out that flame and keep more oxygen from coming in there. You can use a short nail, whatever you use to poke that hole. You use that to pop in there. The nail that I used for this short tin was really long, so it's not going to work. So I'm going to use a coin, and when I pull off the flame, I'm going to just cover it like this and just keep that from letting too much oxygen in there. Well, I got my fire going behind me. I'm going to go ahead and set this on that flame or in those coals, and then cook these, and you'll see what it does. Okay, I got my fire going. I'm going to put this right here over top of those hot coals. There's a nice hot bed of coals there. I'm just going to set it on there, and that should start cooking that cotton cloth. It'll kind of catch it on fire here inside. Well, not really on fire, but it's going to cause that to smolder. We'll let that go here soon. It should start pouring out smoke. And then when it stops, so you can just barely see smoke coming out. I'm not sure if you can see it on the camera. Let me get this a little bit closer for you. Can't get the camera too close, but you see that's pouring out smoke. So that's gonna smoke for a while. Once it's done smoking, I'm gonna pop that off of there. And obviously that can's gonna be hot, so you're gonna be careful not to burn yourself. If you got tongs or something to pull off, that's great. I got a pair of gloves. I'm a tough mountain man, I can handle a little bit of heat. Just kidding. You need to be careful. So this shouldn't take too terribly long. A minute or so, a couple minutes. Depends on how much cotton you got in there, how hot your fire is, how big your tin is. Now once I pull that off of there, I want to be sure not to pop that lid off right away. If I do, it's going to burst into flames, or it could potentially burst into flames. I'm going to take it and set it off to the side until it's cool to the touch. And that will make it so when I do pull the lid off, it's not going to ignite. So char cloth is a lot like a mantle, if you've ever used a Coleman lantern. It's really thin, kind of delicate. You can move it around a bit. It's not going to completely fall apart on you, but it's somewhat fragile. But it takes a really small spark to catch it on fire. No, it doesn't catch on fire, it catches into like a hot ember. But it will take a cool spark. A cool spark is from like a flint and steel. You can always also use a ferro rod on this, but a cool spark is something that you can produce with your flint and steel, and it doesn't take a lot of heat to catch that on fire. But it looks like that's slowed down quite a bit. There's not as much smoke pouring out, so I'm going to reach in there and grab that, and we're going to come over here and set it off the side. Pretty hot. And now I'm going to take my quarter, my coin, or a nail or whatever I got, and I'm going to stick it over that hole and let that cool off. And we're going to let that sit. I'm not going to touch it. I'm going to leave it alone until that tin is cool enough for me to touch with my hand. So I'm going to give it a few minutes and then I'll come back. Okay, so it's been 3 or 4 minutes. This is cool to the touch. While it was cooling, I went out and collected a little bird's nest. So let's pop this off. Try and do it with one hand. All right, so there's the char cloth. This is the cotton that we put in there. Flip it over. Look around. If it's not cooked all the way through, if you still see some white remnants in there, then you're going to go ahead and put the lid back on and throw it back on the fire for a few minutes. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take this char cloth and put it into our bird's nest. You could use jute twine or cotton balls or whatever it is, but you're going to put it in here and we're going to try to get this ignited. If you had a ferro rod, you could probably get this grass started with just the ferro rod, but we're not here today to show you what a ferro rod does. We're here to show you what char cloth does. So next thing we're going to need is some steel. Now here's a couple types of steel for your flint and steel. This is kind of the old-fashioned style. This is what you see the mountain men using. You hold it like this, kind of like you would, I guess, brass knuckles, and you're going to strike it across your flint, or even quartz works. This is an SA fire steel. You can use this for a bow drill spindle. This one's got some rust on it, got wet. I need to clean it up a little bit. So we're going to use this steel. All right, let's go over here real quick. One of these tins. Here we go. Here's my flint. I got some flint here and I got some quartz here. And I'm gonna strike the ferro, sorry, the steel on the flint, and it's gonna produce a tiny little spark. It doesn't need much to catch this char cloth on fire. So I'm gonna set the camera up real quick so you can catch me doing this, and I'll be right back. Alrighty guys, so I moved over here on the ground so you can see this better. I got my flint here, got my piece of steel, carbonized steel, and then my char cloth that we just made. So I'm just gonna take out a sheet of this. That's it. You can see what it looks like. It's kind of see-through now. It's just cooked that cloth. I'm gonna take this and put it inside that bird's nest. And then I'm going to strike this on this steel, or sorry, the flint on the steel, and see if I can't get a little spark inside of here. All right, so I got a little tiny spark on there. See if you can see that. See how I'm trying to move this so you can see what's going on here. But that's all that little spark will ignite that cotton on fire. And there you go. Now we got flame. And it's gonna get you a nice big fire going. So that's it. Just a little tiny cool spark from this flint and steel will get your char cloth to catch on fire. So that's basically it for char cloth. Hopefully you learned something. If you have any questions, ask below and I'll answer as soon as I can. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.